welcome to Footprints in the Market. This is the last episode of the season, and I've got an amazing guest to end season 3. We have Leo Judkins from iGamingLeaders.com. Thank you so much, Leo, for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, really excited to be here, Sharon. Great to be on the podcast, and the very last one as well. So really excited.
So I think what really excited me about this episode was, like, in the last few seasons, mainly we've covered, marketing strategies and all in that sort of like data-led kind of stuff. And there's not really anybody that's kind of come on speaking about like that personal branding aspect of it. And for me, I thought that you'd be perfect because I actually remember our first interaction was me messaging you because I liked your LinkedIn content so much. It was just like, "Hi, Lou, I really like your content."
So there we go, full circle. I like it.
So now I'm like, "I like your content. Can you come share it on my content? Can that be fine?" So I thought like you came across so authentic, and I think that's really, really important. But I think also like the theme of your content is really important for marketers within the space as well. And I think that that's really important for you to share. Like, I think you're raw and honest. And I think that is something that I hadn't really kind of seen before. So what I thought we'd do is, obviously, we're journey focused. If you could tell everybody a little bit of your journey in this iGaming space and how you got to be where you are.
Yeah, cool, sure. So I'm Dutch. I was in Holland 17, 18 years ago in a dead-end job playing poker, and I got pretty decent at it. I became a semi-professional poker player, and it was my hobby. I started creating some coaching videos and writing articles and doing live coaching sessions with people that signed up for this website called Poker Strategy. And that business moved from Hamburg to Gibraltar. And my wife, at the time, girlfriend, always wanted to move to like warmer places rather than sitting in the cold and the rain in the Netherlands. And yeah, I was able to, as that business moved, they opened up a vacancy, and I was able to make my hobby into my work. I moved with the business. I was one of the first 7 people here, I think. I believe we grew to about 400 or 500 employees, became the biggest poker affiliate in the industry. We did the majority of the FTDs at PokerStars, at Full Tilts, and at Party Gaming. And then the FBI seized the bank accounts of like all these big poker companies in the US, and the whole poker market collapsed. So as an affiliate, we obviously collapsed as well. So yeah, I moved out, moved to London, worked for Telefonica for a bit, for O2, and then moved back to Jib to work for BetVictor for 7 years. I was director of retention there, and then 5 years ago I resigned in the middle of lockdown with 2 kids and my first mortgage as an expat, and started my own business. Took the gamble, and yeah, it really paid off. So here we are 5 years later, and now I run iGaming Leader.
You're listening to Footprints in the Market, the marketing playbook for iGaming. Expect unfiltered insight from market leaders on their industry experience, real-life case studies, pitfalls to avoid, and actionable takeaways for practical growth of your brand. Footprints in the Market is brought to you by Digital Footprints, your strategic marketing partner and safest bet in iGaming. Amazing. And I think, tell me a little bit about that choice. Tell me a little bit about why you're just like, I'm resigning, I'm doing my own thing. What kind of led you?
Yeah, so what happened is I at 33 I got promoted to director at BetVictor, and it was great. I was really proud, and I was the youngest director there. But I also found it very, very difficult. In gaming, we get promoted really quickly. It's a very fast-moving industry, as we all know. And if you work hard and you do well, you get promoted very quickly as well. A lot more quickly than you can learn the skills that are required at the next level. And so we'll talk about authenticity in a bit, because you mentioned that before. That's something that I really struggle with. I've always tried to be as honest and as open and as authentic as possible, but I felt that when I got promoted in that role, I actually couldn't be that person anymore. Couldn't be myself, because I had to pretend to be someone that I was not. I didn't have all the answers. I did like really simple things that I thought I had to have answers to. I just didn't have, and I didn't have anybody to ask, because I thought admitting that I didn't know was admitting failure, and that would be seen as being promoted as the wrong person in that role. And so I started working really hard, and I compromised my own health and well-being. Started like I was brain fried every night, was drinking every night. I found myself really overweight, very unhealthy, close to burnout, at rock bottom, and I didn't know how to break out of it without giving up my career. And then I got some help. I got a coach. I turned it around, lost 35 kilos. Really transformed the way I worked as a result of that as well, improved my sleep, my health. And yeah, loads of people started asking how I did that. So I certified as a coach. I wanted to find out more about it, became a certified in behavior change psychology. And then I started coaching people, and that became a viable business idea. And then I thought, well, actually, let me help people in the iGaming space with the things I've struggled with. And so my mess became my message.
I love that. There we go. That's our call out for the whole the whole podcast. My message. Do you know what? I think that's the thing. I think like you're right within iGaming, it is such a fast paced industry and it's brilliant. But you're right. See, once you get to like that level of success, there's a whole different type of challenge, that comes. And I think that's why I actually wanted to have you on as well, because all of our advice has been based on how to get to that place. But
Right.
then once you're
Yes.
there, nobody tells you how to deal with that. Nobody tells you how
Yeah.
to handle that. So then all of a sudden you're there, you're like where you think you want to be, but then you've not thought about all of the stuff that kind of comes along with that. So
Yeah.
what's like you're kind of talking about like burnout and you're really close to that. Have you got any like habits or tips or strategies you could kind of give to marketers once they're at that stage, how they can avoid that?
Yeah. I think it's a blessing in disguise. My burnouts, I've had two, were a blessing in disguise because it kind of helped me realize and recognize the patterns. Sometimes I think you need to hit rock bottom for that to provide the fuel for the change that you need to create in your life. So I don't know, like I think it's difficult to say, right, these are the things you need to do to prevent it because it's very it's just behavior changes, right? And I really think it's kind of starts with that authenticity. It starts with like getting help around you. And I'm not talking about necessarily about coaches or, better physical health or anything like that. I'm more talking about that, like you were saying, Sharon, like when you get to that level, it's a different game and there's a different level of pressure. But the biggest problem is that there's just isolation. You're just
Yeah.
isolated. You're all by yourself. You have no one to talk to about the challenges that go through your head around business, around your own performance, around your team. I often speak to people that we work with, let's say as founder with a bootstrap business. Um, if there's cash flow issues, which
Yeah.
is very normal for a bootstrap business, then you're not going to talk about you're not going to talk to your employees about what you do with
Yeah.
that cash flow issue
Yeah.
because they think they expect a paycheck every month, right? And rightly
Exactly.
so. And they'll be fearing for their jobs when they hear that there's some sort of cash flow issue and you've only got 2 weeks left before the business is basically, kind of gone. So of course you can't talk about that, and your friends probably don't understand because they don't run a business. Your partner doesn't want to hear it because you've
Yeah.
probably been talking about work too much at home already. So you're all by yourself, and I think that is the key. The key is not so much about work-life balance or working less or anything like that. It's just having people to talk to that
Yeah.
experience the same level of pressure and performance as you do. Because it's not just on the negative side of stress and burnout, it's also on the performance side, right? If you want to achieve more in your personal career or in your business, the key is to surround yourself with people that actually hold you to a higher standard,
Yeah.
that create a new normal for you,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's the key to it.
Kind of like that. What's that phrase? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're not in the right room.
Yeah, you got to upgrade the room, right? And then there's this really good. That's so true. And there's this really good metaphor of crabs in a bucket, which says that if there's one crab in a bucket, tries to get out of the bucket, and he makes it out, and no problem gets out of the bucket, right? Put multiple crabs in that bucket, and the other crabs will pull the one crab down back down to where the crowd belongs, right? And I think that's such a great metaphor for how our environments can really hold us back, but sometimes also lift us up, right? So yeah, I think that's the key.
I think that's so like what you've kind of tried to create at iGaming Leader, that sort of community feel though, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because although I get it can be like lonely when you're kind of there at the top by yourself, but it also does have like a community feel within it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
everybody is quite like some of the people I would go for drinks with would be my competitors. Like, do you know that kind of
Yep.
thing? It's not got
Yep.
that dog eat dog vibe that you can kind of see within other industries. Do you think that that's an advantage that we have, and is that kind of what helps you with your iGaming Leader? The fact that people are so like receptive to doing stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if that's true though.
Oh,
Like maybe that's true in your niche. I'm not sure.
yeah,
But I remember, I so remember that we were doing, I don't know, like 7 places or 6 places or 8 places for Grand National or Cheltenham or something, whatever it was, like the same stupid promotion that everybody's done
yeah,
like a million times before. And everybody in the business was like, no, you can't talk to those guys about it because they're in a different business. And I'm like, seriously? It's all so secretive of what the big headline kind of offers would be, and they're all the same, so. And I've often, running CRM teams, I've seen that so much where we would just not talk about CRM strategy with the guys from 365 who are around the corner, or the guys from
yeah,
BWin, or Entain. And it's just silly because it's just not going to change the business. It's
no,
not going to do anything. And that whole secretive thing is, yeah, it's difficult. But look, Sharon, the other thing is that when you need to, like, we've all gone through having to make people redundant, right? It's a
yeah,
really difficult thing. And because usually the people that you need to make redundant are people that you've worked with for a long time and you've got relationships with. They're not just employees, they're people that you've worked with for a long time. You've had drinks with them, you've shared and laughed and cried together. And then all of a sudden, through stuff that is outside of your control, you have to let go of people. And it has nothing to do with their performance, it's business performance and sometimes the markets and the industry. And so those kind of things, when you're going through that process in the business and you can't tell anybody about it
yeah,
because you haven't announced it yet,
yeah,
that's really hard, right? And then you try to make decisions based on your best interpretation of what needs to be done. And like, you can't talk to anybody about that. You can't even talk to competitors about that, like you said,
yeah,
right? Where you are in the pub, you don't talk about that stuff.
yeah.
And I think, yeah, those things are really challenging, I feel. So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded answer to. I'm not sure if that makes it easier or not in gaming. I think the thing that makes it easier in gaming to talk to others is that it's a highly unique industry, and that
Yeah.
means that people, competitors, understand the pressures and pace and the regulation changes and the international territories and all of that better.
I think so. I think that's where you've got. I'm going to say a niche, but actually that's probably not the right word. But you've kind of got that carved out really, really well because then you do have that community. Do you know what I mean? And then that helps people cope a lot better with those decisions and kind of have like solid sounding boards. I mean, I'm lucky enough. Like I do have a business partner, although I make fun of him all the time. But like doing that by yourself, like I can imagine, and I think you need people to be there and support you, and I think what I loved about your content was like people that you would never expect to like say stuff like that, like on a video or whatever. They were just happy to tell you about like, their
Yeah.
experiences, and I think that also then shows that people trust you, and I think that's really important because they wouldn't just open that up to anybody, which is a very nice segue, Leo, to personal branding and
Yeah, sure.
and authenticity. So, why do you think it matters so much? Why do you think people's personal branding matters so much?
So the biggest thing about personal branding is that I think most people think about it as a dirty word. They
Yeah,
think that networking and personal branding basically means that you're looking for a job.
yeah,
And, it's just not true. I think from a business perspective, especially if you're in the B2B space, right? Business to business space, we all do business with people, not with
Yeah.
businesses. It's a person to person industry, right? Not a business to business industry. And, if I would do business with your company, the first thing I would do is actually look at
Yeah.
what you do and what you post and, what you talk about, because you can't trust the business, but you can
Yeah.
trust the person, right?
Yeah.
And so if I want you to do my PR, then that's going to be like trust is going to be a very, very important aspect to that. But it's true everywhere, right? If you're going to run my compliance, like I don't want to lose my license
Yeah.
because of a dodgy company that I'm working with, right? And so, old school thinking is that that's all about the branding. That's all about the banners and the headlines and the fonts and the color schemes and, like the exposure that you get in PR. And it's just, there is some truth to that when you talk about, success stories from customers, for example, and you can display that as a company. But really, the underlying thing is personal branding. And I truly believe that if you have a business where employees are happy to post about their experiences in their roles within their personal lives, then that elevates the entire business. It's almost like the tide that's going up, which lifts the brand. And if you think about the brand investments that businesses make, and you would compare that to the investments that people make in helping employees,
Mhm.
push themselves as personal brands, then yeah, that just kind of is day and night difference. The challenge that I often see with CEOs and founders is that they then are worried that their biggest talents are going to leave, right?
That's what I was going to ask you.
And it's true. I mean, that's going to happen. That's going to happen anyway,
Yeah.
right? You're never going to retain your biggest talents forever. And through personal branding, that's not going to happen any faster or slower or anything. It's just that you now use that talent to actually acquire more business.
Yeah.
And yeah, people will leave when roads inevitably are just going to diverge, and that's just the way it is. If there's a strong loyalty there and people still love their jobs, they will never leave. Like no chance. Um, but it's when you actually stop people from doing the things that highly motivate them, that's when they'll start looking elsewhere. So yeah, I think you can't force people to stay anyway, but I think you can massively gain as a business from helping people develop their personal brands.
Footprints in the Market is sponsored by BetComply, because in iGaming, compliance isn't just a tick box exercise. From new market entry to ever-changing regulations, BetComply keeps you one step ahead. Don't risk it, own it. Head to betcomply.com and take control of your compliance today.
100%. Well, what do you say to people? So, like, people would be shocked to find out, because I'm actually on LinkedIn quite a lot. I do post a lot. I do quite a lot of thought leadership and some culture stuff and all that kind of thing. But actually, it's not when I'm most comfortable. So I'm actually not very comfortable, like, on stage, speaking at conferences. I'm not very comfortable putting my big face out everywhere. So to be like the host of a podcast when I'm pushing everywhere is actually quite unnatural for me and
Mhm.
something that I have to push myself forward to do. And I think that, like, even from an agency perspective, when you're taking care of people's, like, marketing and PR, we get, like, that pushback that we get, "Can you do it without me doing anything or saying anything?"
Can you
Oh,
do my
no.
personal brand with my person? Yeah.
So, like, do I need to go on it? I don't like doing it. Like, so how help me convince them. Help me convince them. Like, how can
No.
we get these people to kind of overcome that and say, like, you're a brand, that's who you are, and
Yeah.
get yourself in front of that camera?
When I got a quick story for you. When I first started when I first started my business, I was coaching people individually, and I got a business coach who helped me with my business. And the way we would acquire customers is through live videos on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Sorry, I've since stopped Facebook, but I had loads of followers. And I did live videos all the time. Now I am the same as you. I can remember at Bet Victor actually standing on stage for 8 minutes, not being able to say a single word in the spotlight with about 150 people in front of me, having to present this new strategy or this new team structure that we were going to do. And I could not say a single word. And my boss had to save me. It was just like I felt like a baby, like he came up on stage, arm around me, gave me a bottle of water, and then finished the speech on his microphone. It's awful. Like big trauma time. And so a few years later, I'm there, I've got this business coach, and he says, you got to do live videos on Facebook. So I'm obviously dreading the moment. I take my phone, I press live, I go live and I do this video, which was like super quick. I was talking really fast and I literally had to throw up afterwards. It was awful. It was awful. But then I did 500 of them, right? In a row, 500 days in a row, and it was fine. So now I feel fine, and it's just repetition. But the thing I've realized is that really when it comes to content, your own personal content, you've got to move away from thinking that it's all about content creation, and you think more about reality capture. If you look at, like, I've literally switched that recently, the last few weeks or so. If you look at the stuff I'm posting over the last week or two, like, I think I've tripled engagement. I've like the amount of inbound requests I'm seeing it's doubled. And it's all exploded because I'm no longer using this formula-driven type of hook, rehook, body, CTA. As soon as you start thinking like that, it becomes really difficult and it becomes very hard. And as soon as you start more creating content around, this is just what's happened. And a bit like, we were talking in the Fox, right, at IGB Live. It's a bit like, I often think about that. I often think I post something or I write something and I kind of go, would I say that in the Fox over a pint? No, I wouldn't say it like that. All right, then I'm going to rewrite it in a way that I would actually say it to Sharon.
Yeah, you're 100% right. But in a previous episode, and I keep on using this quote, it was one of our guests, Harry Lang, and I'd said to him, what's your golden nugget? And he said, marketing isn't ever perfect. And he's like, bang on, because when you just try so hard to be perfect and to be that thing or that person or that whatever that you think people want, I think that is when it starts to lose that authenticity. Because when I'm speaking to you in the Fox, you're far more likely to actually just have a chat and we'll be there longer, especially if somebody we know is getting the drinks. But
but that's the thing, right, Sharon? That's the thing. I think it just moves away it takes away the pressure, the performance pressure. And I also think the other thing, maybe that's a bit of a minefield for people, is this word authenticity, right? People often think that authenticity is about sharing things that you don't want to share, or like being, I don't know, all these drama stories, or and it's not like that. Authenticity is just like, literally, this is what's happened. And I think maybe it's not interesting, maybe it is, I don't know, but that's what you just asked me what happened. I'm telling you, this has just happened, and that's what you post. And it is really that simple.
No, 100%. Now, what I wanted to do, Leo, was just ask you, because obviously, as you said, you're an accredited coach, you've changed your career in terms of what you're doing. And what I wanted to ask, see if you're a new marketing leader within this space, what do you think's the difference between being a good marketing leader and a great one? So I'm switching back.
Yeah, sure. So if you're new, I don't know, if you're new in the space, I think it's different to when you really move into leadership position. Everything comes down to just being eager to learn and to work hard, right? Work hard and work hard doesn't mean sacrificing your personal life and not having any friends and not having a social life. Work hard just means you work hard. And I think people often underestimate how much hard work is actually required to achieve success. So I think that's the first one. The second one is that you've got to upgrade your environment. That story about the crabs in a bucket, I think, is so true. I like, when I started my business, it was the same thing. I had friends around me that, would never start a business, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But they were constantly talking about how bad of a decision it was, how likely it was that it would go wrong. You don't need that kind of, you don't need that stuff around you. You want people that lift you up instead of drag you down. It was the same when I moved from Holland to Gibraltar. I moved from a dead-end village, that nobody ever escapes from. And they would go, oh, of course it's not going to work. Like, you don't need that environment around you. So I think when you're new or when you want to progress in your career, it's all about upgrading your environment and thinking about, okay, who are the people that I actually look up to? Who's the person that I want to become? And how can I surround myself with those people?
Okay, so in terms of that, like, can you think of any important advice that somebody kind of gave you? Is there anything that kind of like stands out when you think, "Do you know what? I wish I'd have known that when I was in iGaming," or like, what's the biggest learning you took?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing really is that it's really okay to not know something and to
Yeah.
admit that you're not sure. Um, I see it on every podcast episode I do, where I'm interviewing people.
Hmm.
It like with leaders, the biggest thing they always talk about is how important that is, and I've experienced that exact same thing myself. Is that when you're afraid to admit it and you don't say anything, that's a real issue because you start doubting yourself and you start kind of getting really insecure. But what happens more often than not is that people who are afraid to admit that they don't know something
Yeah.
then start making stuff up. And wow, that's a real big problem. And but yeah, just saying, look, I don't know, and I've got to let me come back to you is absolutely fine. The problem is often that we feel that we have to perform in some sort of way, right? That we have to throw up a performance. And, your career is never going to be, it's never going to make or break within one specific moment. Um, I think it's consistency over time that really defines us as leaders. And it's not about that one moment where you might or might not know something. In fact, there is real strength in saying, I'm not sure about that. Great question. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to go away and find out for you. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing that I wish not only I heard, because if I would have heard it, like somebody on the other side of this, maybe hearing this now would have gone, all right, whatever. That's something I wish I would have done way earlier.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think like even from like an agency side, and the reason we kind of created digital footprints, like the reason behind that brand was because not everybody knows everything. Like, and I always kind of say that to even like the people that are part of my team, like, don't ever let me touch a website, even though we do web development, I'll break it. Don't let me create a graphic because I'm not very good at it. But
Yeah.
what I can do is create good marketing concepts, and I think that you're right. If I was to then say, "Do you know what? I can do all of the things," then it doesn't work out well. It doesn't work out for results. It doesn't work well for your self-esteem because then all of a sudden you're doing something you've got no clue what you do, and the end result is just bad for everybody in general.
Yeah. And the biggest problem really is that most people do that. They make stuff up when they don't know. They make stuff up because they want to seem like a more knowledgeable or better
Yeah.
leader or want to impress. Where in fact, what you're doing is the opposite because people can smell that from a mile away. So by pretending by not admitting that you need some time to figure it out, you're actually doing the opposite of what you're trying to do.
Do you think people have now got higher expectations of like themselves based on like because LinkedIn, I'm using LinkedIn as an example, but it's like a crowded space now. Like everybody wants to be a thought leader, and that kind of means different things to different people. But do you think because of that, people are like, no, I need to be perfect because X, Y, and Z is they're doing this, and I need to
Yeah.
be.
I think it's true everywhere on social media though. And I think it has been true for a very long time. Old school Facebook, Instagram, then Instagram Reels, stories, TikToks, like the stuff that people put up typically is their best moments, right? The
Yeah,
successes that they have. So what we do naturally as humans is we compare ourselves to others. And what happens is that when we consume a lot of social media, regardless of the platform, we inadvertently compare ourselves to everybody else's highlight reel.
yeah,
And so that then sets impossible standards for ourselves, and it's very difficult to kind of filter that and go, well, actually, no, Sharon is not just having successes, she's probably also struggling, she's just not talking about it, like. So I think that's really hard, and I think that's been true for a very long time across every single social media platform. The thing I'm seeing a lot on LinkedIn is that there's a lot of fake engagement, there's a lot of pods, there's a lot of you just look at people with a lot of interactions on their posts, and you'll see that the comments that are made on those posts are from people that are basically also LinkedIn creators, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this false economy that's been created on LinkedIn, which is a whole different story. But I think I had this discussion in Pierre's group, and I had it on somebody's post the other day as well, where I said, look, engagement really doesn't matter unless it's from your ideal client.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're just vanity metrics. And yeah, of course, these social media platforms are created to hit our dopamine levels, just like
Yeah.
a casino slot is, with the notifications and stuff. So of course you're not gonna be immune to that. But really, that's the key. And I don't think we have higher standards. In fact, I think every high achiever has very high standards of themselves. So if you've got high standards and you're never satisfied with what you've done, great job, because that means that you're probably a high achiever. You're going to get very far. Doesn't mean that you should not stand still and actually recognize some of those achievements. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong in actually feeling that you're not where you want to be yet. I think that's
Yeah.
actually good in many cases.
Footprints in the Market is brought to you by Digital Footprints, your strategic marketing partner and safest bet in iGaming. Make your mark and work with us to drive growth and innovation for your iGaming business.
What I wanted to ask you, Leighton, was I watched iGaming Leader for a long time, you know that, but and I watch all the videos, I watch all the content. I'm a massive fan because I think it's something that's much needed within this space. If you were to pick, I'm sure it's a massive combination of things, but if you were to pick one key, one silver bullet to the success of iGaming Leader and how you've managed to get that message across to people, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, no, there is actually one answer. And that's only something there's actually two. One is that I realized that I had to stop doing everything by myself. And what I mean with that is, very often in leadership, we think that it's all about ourselves and we've got to do it alone. And actually just having people around you that shape you and that help you think differently has been hugely important for me. Friday, I had lunch with Ashley Lang, from Pragmatic Solutions, really good friend of mine, and somebody that will just challenge my thinking. I speak with Finton quite regularly. So anyway, so I've got people around me that challenge my thinking and help me think differently. I think it's so important. The second thing is, from a business perspective and a positioning and offer, for a very long time, I thought it was all about me coaching others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what everybody has. Everybody has this at a PR agency. I'm sure it's the same, where you think they want me as the business owner, as the managing director, right? And that's just an ego thing, which is fine. That's not meaning that negatively. That's just we think we're the center point, right? And as soon as I pivoted my business into something that was more collaborative and peer-to-peer driven. So we run mastermind sessions where people break out into breakout rooms. They talk about their biggest challenge for 2 minutes. They get feedback for 8 minutes from others in the room, and then they rotate. I am not involved in that process, right? I'm just facilitating it. That has it's made results explode for everybody, because suddenly they get perspectives not from me but from people in similar situations. And so I would challenge anybody that feels that they are the bottleneck in their business to think about, okay, if I would not be here, how would I change things, and how can I create better results for my clients, for my customers? Because in the end, that's what customers pay for. They don't pay for your time.
Yeah.
They pay for results. And an example I just gave, I ran a workshop for another PR agency actually on Tuesday. And the example I gave was I was at a hairdresser, and there was this new guy, and took forever, and I don't have a lot of hair. It shouldn't take forever. The guy was taking 30 minutes because it's 30-minute slots, and I thought, man, you don't need 30 minutes. I just want the business done, right? I don't want your 30 minutes. I just want my hair cut, and I want it to look nice and whatever. And so 15 minutes, I would actually probably pay him more for less time with him. And I think that's so true in many businesses. It's not about time. It's about the value that we bring to that time.
Yeah. I think people, like, even like from my own personal perspective, like people think that they are the business, and it kind of becomes then it becomes part of your identity. Do you know what I mean? It's who you are almost. And it is difficult to then take yourself away from that a little bit. But I think also there's like, I don't want to say peer pressure, but for the lack of a better phrase, like when you go on social media and you see people that are like, oh, I've not had a holiday in 5 years because I'm just working so hard to get my business up to, and it's kind of like, it glamorizes that.
Yeah, I think the whole work hard, play, like I always say, work hard, play hard is for kids,
Yeah.
Like that's fine if you're like 25, but that's not how successful people operate, right? Yes, of course you've got to work hard, but you also got to recover just as hard. That's what high performance is. Think about any sports, right? You train harder than anybody else. So translate that to business. You work harder than everybody else. But these top athletes, they're not partying and like they're not, and not that there's not a place for that, because you should relax, you should unwind, but that should be recovery, right? So work hard, play hard really is for kids. And if you want to be a high achiever, if you're a high achiever and you want to be a high performer and you want to achieve more, it's about the combination of those two things. And I think in terms of personal branding, on that session on Tuesday, I used Alex Tomic, as an example. If you're going to buy something from Alea, yes, he's the face of the business, but you're not going to expect him to, come onto the Zoom call with you when you're talking about the next slot that you want that is going to be on the roadmap, are you? But because all he does is PR and he's on stage and he's the face of the business, you might actually do business with that company because of him. So I don't think you have to be the bottleneck.
No, I think you're 1,000,000% right, Leo. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Honestly, it's been amazing speaking to you. Obviously, we've kind of had conversations and stuff offline, and it's been great getting to find out more about what you do, how you're helping people within the space, and also just getting some free advice from you there as well.
Thank you for having me, Sharon. It's been really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.